Hi everyone. This week we're joined with Jul Torq. Hi.
Hey, Felix.
Hi. Francis won't be here for this one because he's not feeling too good. So it's just gonna be you and me. And this week's subject, this month's subject, because we're doing one every month, like we said, is going to be about the new technologies that we find in cars. So obviously, with the technologies in every market that's been growing in the past, I don't know, 15, 20 years, since the internet, really, everything's been going like this with technologies, including cars. So
Yes.
obviously, like there's new technologies every year in cars, new systems and everything. And most people that have new cars or more modern cars have seen that in cars, like Bluetooth, obviously, and stuff like that. But we're going to talk about a lot of them quickly and just like little fun fact or stuff like that. But most people know them, and there's new one coming on the market too. So and you test cars every week, Julien, right?
Yeah, I test cars every week. I review them, sometimes two per week. New technologies we have to adapt, especially us here at Torque Army. So we need to learn those brand new technology to bring you information, how they works, if they're worth it to pay extra for these options. And sometimes it can get really complicated, especially when you're in the super high-end models like BMWs and Mercedes-Benz and all that. Sometimes they're hard to use, they're confusing, and even some people, there are some beeps and lights showing up, and they have no clue what they're doing. So I think we're gonna talk about a few of them, and also I'm gonna tell you if they're worth it, and also a technology is not equal for everyone. It might work well for a brand, and the other brand is not
Yeah,
working that well, I could say.
yeah, it's different in brands too, because some car companies will put a new technology, it will flop totally, and another one will do something similar. It's gonna be better. So it's all about testing and making sure it's good for the customer. So
Yep.
the first one, so obviously in the last 20 years, we saw a bunch of new technologies, features in cars, and recently more futuristic technologies.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about obviously the autopilot from Tesla and stuff like that. Like cameras everywhere and stuff. So, but the one thing that really changed the futuristic or modern car, I think, is the keyless fob, the fob key that you don't have a ignition start to do on modern cars. I don't know when it started though. Maybe you know that, but
Oh, it's been a while ago. I think early 90s, probably in
oh, really?
high-end models. Usually those new technologies, they're we see them at first in Mercedes-Benz Class
Yeah.
S or Cadillac or something like that. That's where they really try to benchmark and try those new technologies. The keyless entry, at first it was like a really high-end, again, option. And telling you the truth, it's cheaper for the manufacturers now to do a push button than just a real starter with a key.
Oh,
For them, it just it's less complicated. It's easier also to just put a button for. So again, for the user, it's simpler, and also for the manufacturers, it's cheaper to make.
okay. Well, obviously, I'm not surprised that at first it was in luxury cars and stuff like that, and now they make them in more modern and affordable car. Makes sense to me. So
Yeah, and now with the keyless, when you're approaching some cars, some lights gonna light up. Sometimes also the side step's gonna go down.
okay.
In future models like the Hummer EV, you're gonna be able to see the charge level in your headlights when you're
Oh, really?
approaching the Hummer. So when you're low, you're gonna see like some like just a couple of bars, and especially with new EVs and all that, I think the key fob is gonna offer you a lot of things. Also, you're able to open your lift gate with gentle kick underneath your bumper, your rear bumper, when you have your key fob on you. So there's a
Oh,
lot of things now you can do with the key fob, and I think this technology is gonna keep evolving.
yeah, obviously it's a growing market, and it's also a plus for the customer, adding new technologies and making the driving experience more pleasant.
Yeah.
The dual clutch transmission. So it's been there for a while too, I think, but now it's more common because we see less car in with manual mode, right? You don't see people driving stick anymore, really.
Yeah. Well, with the dual clutch, it depends on the technology. You can have like really a racing technology, like the first one we saw in Ferraris and Porsches and like that. But now these days, you can find a dual clutch transmission inside of a Kia Sorento Sportage. I mean, a Sportage, not the Sorento. And also, yeah, I drove a couple of them, like with not a really expensive, not it's not it was not a sport car. I think the Sorrento was one of them. I drove also the GV80 from Genesis. It's a more high-end
Yeah.
car, but still had a dual clutch. So in these type of cars, it give you a more a sensation. You're gonna it's sportier, but once again depends on the manufacturers and all they're gonna tune up those transmission. It might work well, and sometimes there's always plus and minuses. I could say a dual clutch in dual clutch in a sport car, it makes sense. In a small SUV, if you're trying to like do some towing and stuff like that, it's probably not the best transmission, but it's still better, funnier than a CVT transmission.
Yeah. Well, the dual clutch we're talking is the shifting pad, right?
But the dual clutch, you can have a full auto on a dual
Okay.
clutch.
Okay.
So usually, if you have a full dual clutch with a Ferrari with the the paddles, it's not the same as something you'll find in a Kia, but
Okay.
they're still using the dual clutch.
But
So
is
the dual clutch, basically, it's one gear, it's already engaged in one clutch, and with the second clutch, the other one, it's pre-engaged, so it shifts quicker when you're shifting your gear. You can have also three clutches, so when you really want to do some sport driving, so there's going to be one engage when you're rolling, one's going to be pre-engaged up, and one pre-engaged down. So if you want to do a quick downshift,
okay.
it's always ready, pre-engaged, and all that. So the thing with the dual clutch is not all about the paddle shifter. It's the way it shifts. It's quicker.
And I think there's a myth around, or I've been told like before, the shifting paddles. When you have an automatic car with a shifting paddle, is it okay to use them? Obviously, they put them there to use it, but can it damage the transition? Is it better to just don't use it, or
Most of them, especially when they're not like they're just an automatic, not a dual clutch.
yep,
Usually, when you're using your manual mode or your Triptronic, they won't let you shift your gear completely to the red line. So usually, when you push your car, even if you don't shift, sometimes the car is gonna shift for you. But when you're inside of a true enthusiast car and you're in a manual mode, and you try to hit that red line, it will let you hit that red line. So example, inside of Challenger Hellcat, there's a 8-speed transmission. It's not a dual clutch, but you got a paddle shifter and all that, but you're still able, to really shift your gear all you really want. But in the most case, you're not able to do like a money shift, really aggressive, downshift, and downshift too much to really, blow up your engine. These cars won't let you do that.
okay, I understand. All right. Well, the next one we have is the obviously most people have them in their cars from a while now. Is the Bluetooth, obviously. So everyone has Bluetooth now. Most of them, if you have an older car, no. But fun fact about that, since everyone knows Bluetooth and now it works now, just a fun fact before we jump on to the next. It was introduced in 1999. I saw that yesterday in the Chrysler first. So I was like, that's pretty early on,
Yeah.
considering the fact that Bluetooth is now part of our life regularly now. That in 1999 it was first introduced. I think it was probably for the model 2000 or something, but it was Chrysler. So that
But
was
the evolution of Bluetooth now is to have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay
yeah.
wireless. Example, inside of my GMC Yukon, you can have two phone with no wires, like wireless, plugged in, full time on the screen.
So
So
you
there's
can
another antenna on the roof. It's gonna be able to plug those phone in. I think the evolution of Bluetooth, it works with the Bluetooth basically, but now it's just uh, your screen, in the future is gonna use pretty much everything on your phone. So
yeah.
even if you don't like what you see really on your screen, or you don't get the navigation and all that, you can use your phone. So example, myself, when I bought my new Yukon,
Hmm?
I didn't pick the option with the navigation and all that, so I save a couple of $1,000 every time I need to use the navigation. I plugged in my phone, my
Yeah.
Apple CarPlay, and I've got the GPS of my phone.
Yeah.
And
Most
you know
people,
what? Usually the GPS on your phone, it's way better than the one you've got on your car, because the one on your car doesn't get uh, as often the updates for the maps and all that. So
yeah, correct. Yeah. I didn't know that, but yeah, true. Obviously, if you can save money by using your phone, most people use their phone for GPS anyway. So yeah. The next one we have is the radar control, cruise control. So I don't know if you know how it works. I don't know anything about that. My Chevy Cruze 2014 doesn't have that.
So basically, there's when you're on cruise control, there's going to be a radar who's going to calculate, the distance between you and the car in front of you. Against, depending on the brand, it might change your experience. You can adjust also the distance if you want to be close, or like
Oh, okay.
having like one car, three cars, whatever the distance you like. At first, these radars were not really good. They were not really fun to drive. But when you're alone on a long trip, you're on the highway for hours, it's really practical. It's going to slow down just for you. And also sometimes when you put your blinker on, it's going to accelerate for you. And
Oh,
sometimes
for real?
it's really safe. But the thing is, when you're using that and there's a little bit of traffic, because these systems are really safe, there's always a good distance between you and the guy in the front of you. So there's always people who's going to cut you when you're using that
Oh,
in the
okay,
traffic. But the latest one works really well. I had some bad experience with the Subaru one. They called it the high sight. The high sight, it's right just underneath the mirror. And there's some kind of cameras. It's really big. It's usually these systems, you don't really see them, or you really have to notice it. And the Subarus are big and chunky, and when you have a little bit of ice or snow or a little bit of fog on your windshield, the system doesn't work anymore. So past winter, I had a really bad experience. It didn't work well for me. But these systems sometimes some brand is going to work well in good condition, like California, Florida, and all that. But sometimes when you use them in winter time here in Canada, it's not the best.
yeah, with our weather, sometimes driving is difficult. The next one is I was thinking about. We just talked a little bit about it, but cameras, like cameras are everywhere in cars now. You
Yeah.
have it for your blind spot. You have it for your rear view mirror. You have it for everything. So Tesla have just cameras on their car. So it's like that for most new cars. It's been there for a while, the blind spot, I think, but
Yeah.
most
Now,
people have them.
now
Backing up
it's mandatory. The backup camera is mandatory on every car. So even if you have
right
a
now,
base Kia or Chevy, it's gonna come with the
guys.
camera.
But like it's in the last couple of years, it's been that. It's not from maybe 5, 10 years. It's been like that.
I think it was mandatory in 2018, 19,
Yeah,
something like that.
it makes sense. Well, it's really practical. So
Yeah, and again, depending on the brand, some brands, they didn't upgrade their camera yet. Some other brands, they have super high quality cameras all around. Uh, where I see the biggest benefit of these cameras, it's really with big trucks like HD trucks, super duties, and all that. You have literally new cameras to give you not only your blind spot, but the blind spot of your trailer. You can add cameras on your trailer so you can see behind your trailer.
oh,
When you're using your blinker, you see the side of your trailer. So while towing, those cameras are super practical. You can even put one inside of your trailer, and those things was really fun because I had the chance to test those cameras last no, there's 2 summers before COVID.
oh, okay, yeah,
We had some. I was in Wyoming and also in Oregon. We do some, tests between cones with a really
yeah.
large trailer, and we had to use all those kind of cameras. And it was a lot of fun. And what was fun during those trips? Usually, they were always hiding something special inside of those trailers. And one time was a Corvette, and another time it was prototype with like all
That
the
futuristic
the
car.
clothing they put on to hide like the shape. And back then it was the GMC Canyon 84. It was not out yet, so it
Okay.
was kind of cool. I miss doing those trips.
Yeah, well, you can use the cameras and really know what it brings as a value for the car for
Yeah.
customers. So
And
it's like
again, I launched the one of the first backup cameras on the F-150 back in 2008 for the 2009 models, and that was a revolution because we were using the rear camera to being able to hook up your trailer with your hitch and all that. So we were showing like the dealership like how to hook up your trailer all by yourself. And back then it was like something big. You're able to hook up your trailer all by yourself and just use a camera and have it on the first run. On the first time you're trying to hook it,
yeah,
and you don't have to go out of your truck and come back to adjust like the distance and all that. It was something big. Those cameras may change the game.
yeah, that's a plus. I'm gonna skip a couple because we talked about it. Assisted steering. So the first time I drove a car with that technology, I was impressed, but I was kind of shocked because I was driving a car. I think it was a GMC Terrain, not sure, but the car was just driving itself. It's like an autopilot mode, but it was swinging between the lines. So
Yeah.
it detects the lines on the ground. So I was on the highway, a straight highway. I just wanted to test it, and it was swinging back and forth, not like this, but like slowly. So you need to be
Yeah.
focused and conscious about that. But it was a little bit sketchy, but it was kind of cool because I had a first glimpse of like what autopilot could really look like. It was crazy.
Yeah, again, depending on the brand,
Yeah.
I think the ones you'll find inside of a Kia, Hyundai, and also Genesis, they're really good. They keep you between the lines. They can take curves and all that. It feels like an autopilot, like. And I always test those things to the limit. Not touching the steering wheel and see what's gonna. There's always some funky alarms gonna come up. The one had a less better experience, a little bit like you had. It's inside of Nissan products. It really plays ping pong between the lines, and also what's funny about about the Nissan products, when you don't you know you don't touch the steering wheels, you're gonna have like an alarm, a bigger alarm, and if you don't touch your steering wheels, it's gonna apply the brake. And
Oh,
that's great. That's
that,
really scary.
I think it's more dangerous. I mean,
It's just like a small
oh,
aggressive, like
wake you up.
yeah. When you try to wake up someone, like inside of a car, you give like a little shut off brake.
Yeah,
It's the same thing. And I found it was like, I was really surprised. I was like, wow, this is dangerous.
yeah, yeah.
But these systems works better than they used to, especially I think I think these are really good for distracting driving. People are not looking at in the front; they're using their phone while driving, or they're watching something else. And you go on the line, you get a little vibration either in your steering wheel, or some models gonna be in your seat. You're gonna vibrate your ass.
Oh, well, I
And
didn't know that.
it gives you a little like wake up. You're on the line and all that. So,
Okay.
but they get better. At first, they were not good.
Yeah, but I think it's so complicated to have the standard and be approved for autopilot, which will be our next subject. But I think they try something similar just to say they have a new technology, because I don't think many people use them honestly, unless you're on a highway for a very long time. You
Yeah.
don't use that in a regular street in the city or something like that. So I
Yeah.
don't know, but the technology is there. It's coming for autopilots. It just needs to be approved, because it's crazy thing. Which we're jumping right now into the next subject, the autopilot. It's kind of crazy to think that in 2021 we have cars that can drive itself. And I say 2021, but it's been there for a couple of years with Tesla.
Well, basically, what I've seen and what I've talked with a couple of engineers and all that, it's like the technology is ready. It's just they didn't have the internet speed yet.
Oh, okay.
So with the 5G, they can really utilize the autopilot. So with higher speed and higher feedback and all that, they can really use that technology. So far, Tesla is always there in the news, but the thing is, like, the system you'll find in a Tesla had major flaws, and people had been, doing stuff they were not supposed to.
Sleeping.
Uh, yeah, they were like just like switching seat and not keeping their eyes on the road or keeping their hands on the steering wheel, stuff like that.
That's
And the
dangerous.
thing is with the Tesla, even if you're not really, under behind the wheel, it's still gonna work. If you're using that system, even on the country road, it's gonna work. So safety wise, the Tesla, it's fun to use, but it's not the safest. And I think bigger companies like Mercedes-Benz, GM, and all that, they put some safety stuff to make sure they won't get sued and all that. The thing is about these stuff is just while using it, if you get into an accident, is it your fault, or it's the fault of the manufacturers of the car? Are they going to sue the company because you die inside of an accident while you were on autonomous driving? That's the big thing right now.
Yeah, obviously, but people need to understand autopilot doesn't mean you can sleep or like eat or change places in the car. I saw a video a couple years ago when the autopilot was out for Tesla, and then the guy was sleeping on the highway in California, I think at like maybe 60 miles an hour, sleeping like that with his bench reclined. He was just sleeping like that, taking a nap. That's dangerous. What if the autopilot shut down, or that's the only thing. So that,
Yeah.
but that's why they have been trouble passing laws about that in certain countries, or uh, being approved by the government or something. The
Some
transportation.
states it's legal. Not in Nevada, it's you can use autonomous cars. They can put cars with completely no drivers on the road. So
Oh,
that's why all the companies are going to Nevada to test all their
okay.
cars. And I saw also footage of Chevy Bolts EV, fully autonomous in the streets of San Francisco,
Really?
with pedestrian like cutting them in front of them, cars coming out of nowhere, and that was really really impressive. So the technology is there. It's just again, there's so many elements and all that. Sometimes again, it might works in Nevada and San Francisco and all that, but if you're having snow and shitty roads like we have here,
Yeah.
the system might not work well.
Yeah, obviously. Well, yeah. So the maybe the last one is to me is a game changer too. Like we said about the Bluetooth, it's kind of related to the Bluetooth, the voice control. Like obviously you cannot text and drive or take your phone and drive, but that was a problem in the past. People were calling, texting. People are still doing that, but it was causing more accident, more death, and especially in here in Quebec we had like commercials, advertisement. The government was really pushing and putting stricter laws uh, around that. So now with the voice control, you can just with the Bluetooth and voice control, you can say, "Oh, call my friend, call mother, call Jul Torq, tell me
Yeah.
about the the voice control." So I don't know what's your point of that, but I think it's cool. But there's still some problems with that too. Growing technology, voice recognition, that's a big factor too. So
I think it's great, but I launched one of those technology with Ford back in the day. At first, when we had Sync, and I
yeah,
was on the auto show floor, and we had to do some demos with the voice control and all that. Telling you the truth, it's people love it when you show it to them, but people don't use it. Even myself, it's
yeah,
really rare I'm gonna use it inside of one of the cars I'm reviewing. And usually now these days it's getting better, especially when you plugged in your phone and all that.
uh,
But you have to learn the words you can say and the words the systems won't really understand. So
true.
that's the
Yeah,
thing. So once you get like the words, I can say that, and that. It's just there's a learning curve, and most people don't want to spend time
yeah,
to learn
correct,
those all
correct.
those
There's
words and stuff.
yeah, you need to learn, and the voice recognition is terrible in some cars. You say call this and that, and it doesn't work, but it's still something that will be improved. But like the Bluetooth, it really changed the perspective of customers. Like, wow, there's I can talk to my car and stuff like that. So that was changing, but it was not a flop, but it's too complicated for people to use since now people are plugging their phone, sorry, their phone with Bluetooth and or just an auxiliary cord. It's
Yeah, the thing is, they need to use the technology of the phone. So if you're using the Siri, like for Apple phones, it's gonna work well. But the thing is, before it was on your phone, each manufacturers were trying to do their own system. So that's why it's kind of buggy and not working well. When you're using the technology on your phone and you mirror that technology on your screen, it's gonna work well. The thing is, when we talk about technology, you have to understand, the timeline, how they're gonna construct a new car. So basically, sometimes, let's say, I don't know, they're due for a new Mustang. Okay, probably next year or something like that. But it's been, they've been working on that Mustang since probably, 2016, 2017. It's been, 5 years, 6 years. And when the car is coming out, the technology they were putting inside of that car, it was the
evolved.
technology from 5 years ago.
Yeah,
So if you're following the phone technology, the manufacturers are not able to follow the same curve. They cannot go as fast. They don't have the budget.
no, obviously.
Like example, Ford is selling cars, Apple is selling phones. So Apple's gonna put all that money and technology inside their phones. The screen inside of a car is just one part of that car. So that's why, they're switching more and more to use the technology of the phone so they can follow that technology curve
Yeah,
and,
like
keep
you said,
up with the technology.
yeah, exactly that. Like you said, it's so fast. Technology's been growing so fast in the last 20 years, more than any other evolution of other stuff in the past in 1900s or anything. That's the fastest growing market in the history, I think. So in 20 years, look, I don't know when the first iPhone came out, but like the first digital phone was like maybe I don't know 2009, something like that. So it's like
A little bit earlier than that. No, not around
something
that
like
time.
yeah. So maybe something like maybe 2008 or seven, but like what it's 10, 12 years. In 12 years, where we have automatic autopilot cars, we have new phones, bigger phones. That's so to wrap this up. My point is, if you think about uh, people saying like you need to drive and be connected on the road and be focused, your vision 100%, not distracted. But now they put bigger screen on your car. They tell you not to text and drive, but they put big iPad in your car, and I don't know. It's like it contradicts itself, but you need that technology now. So I don't know what's your point of view on that, but to me,
There's no end to this. Do you remember the Grand Cherokee, Grand Wagoneer, the Grand Wagoneer concept? There's screen everywhere. There's
yeah,
even one big one in front of the passenger seat. I don't know if it's gonna be like that. I don't think. I think they removed that screen, but
no,
there's just no hand, when we drive like Cadillac Escalade, there's like big screen in the back. The kids can go on the GPS, they can send you like information, they can send you like a restaurant or something like that. It's really cool, it's really
yeah,
fun, but there's a lot of things, that's one thing, for us who grew up in technology, when you're 40, 45 and less. But when you're 45, 50 and higher, when you came inside of these new cars and you have all those technologies and buttons and all that, even for myself who review cars every week, sometimes I get in some cars and I'm like, this is complicated for me. If it's complicated for me, it's complicated for a lot of people.
yeah, that,
You
it's
you have
over.
those funky pad inside of the German cars, man. Sometimes it's just
It can be overwhelming for people having too much of a distraction on the board, and that's the little thing I maybe a cons for technologies and for if you compare the pros and cons, but mostly it's more pros because it helps you drive. The only
yeah.
thing I have a problem with is having big ass screen in the front of the car, and people, not people, but obviously you can't text and drive. It's dangerous. But then there's that. So
One
it
thing
is
I'm scared of is just like there's all those driving aids who's gonna help you, but the new drivers, they're gonna be so used to all those driving aids. The day those driving aids won't work, they won't be able to drive it.
true, true.
It's just like I grew up with like really like base, old school cars, tractors, and all that. I think the new kids these days, there's no, driving assist for the lines. There's no autopilot. They they won't be able to. I think they won't be able to drive the cars in manual mode. I could say,
Yeah, like we used to.
yeah.
That's good. But the technology is like that. We have to keep up if we want to compete, like we said. So yeah, that was a fun one. I think we covered a lot of things. I don't know yet what we're going to talk in the next one, but maybe you talked about Apple. Maybe we could make a one about Apple that they announced a car that they're going to build. Maybe we could.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're gonna build that, but
I think they partnered with Kia or
Nothing is sure. At
okay.
one point it was Hyundai. At one point, Samsung is building one. Sony is
Okay.
building one. But
Everybody
all these cars is just like we need to see them on the road. You know,
don't talk.
there's a big gap between just staying how we're gonna do it and building a prototype. Even the what's the name of the vacuum company?
The what?
The vacuum company was supposed to build one too, like
I don't.
the fancy vacuums.
I don't.
Dyson.
Oh, Dyson. Okay, yeah, I
Uh,
know Dyson.
Dyson tried to build a car.
Oh, really?
Was just too expensive, and they canceled the
Yeah, it's
project.
a lot of money. I don't know. Well, we're gonna see. We're gonna pick a subject, and then we're gonna come back in a couple weeks. Thank you, Jules, for being here. You saved me from Francis not being here, and thank you very much. We're gonna talk in the next one.
All right, see you next time.
Bye bye.